So, as you can see this discussion, the topic is strategic communication for collections team. Now, before we start this discussion, we get into the details and I introduce the panel. This topic is extremely important. Most of us who are present in this auditorium now are leaders in the industry. And each one of you, directly or indirectly, I'm sure you either take important collection decisions or you influence the collection decisions. Maybe you're in the support service, so your decisions are also important. And this is a very vast topic. In fact, strategic communication for collection team it's a very vast topic and a very important topic. And as we know, collections is all about communication. So we have defaulters and the lenders have to collect the money. So there is that communication that makes all the difference. Collection has its own challenges also. And most of the challenges and problems also evolve from the miscommunication or the wrong kind of communications. And in the industry, we know how in collections, wrong kind of communication or undesired kind of communications creates huge problems, whether with law enforcement agencies, whether it is with the regulators. We often enter into serious problems because wrong kind of communication happens. And with technology improving, customers are having mobile phones where they can record all such communications. So effective communication, the right kind of communication becomes extremely important. Now what we are actually going to focus here is the technology, how technology can bring revolution, how technology can change the kind of communication that we are having with customers who are defaulting in loan. So now, there are obviously, like most technology when it comes, whether it was a computer, whether it was internet, it was very easy for the industry to embrace because there were more positives and hardly any negatives. Though there were fear of losing jobs if computers are introduced, but for the industry, it was a win-win situation because effectiveness, accuracy, everything will improve. Whereas, when we talk about communication using technology, there are a lot of doubts, there are a lot of questions that arise. It may not be a straight, easy and simple decision that yes, we should embrace technology for communications right away. Because as you know, in communication, in collection, emotions, understanding the problems of customers, a lot of other factors, human factors are involved. So straight away getting AI or getting technology is something that needs a serious consideration. So that will be the main theme of the topic. And as there has been a slight change in the timing and the schedule, so the format of this discussion will change a bit. We want to change the format of the discussion. So what I will do is I will introduce the panel, and of course we have a vastly experienced and immensely knowledgeable and articulate panel. So they will have their own views, they will have their own opinions, they will have their own interesting points to share. So I will introduce the panel and then I will request each of the panelists to share their views rather than having any question answer as such. So now it is my privilege to introduce this panel before you. We have Subinder Kaur, Chief General Manager Retail Loan at State Bank of India. Dr. Rohit Salwan, Head of Legal and Fraud Prevention Unit at Bajaj Allianz Life Insurance. We have Rishabh Goel, Co-founder and CEO of Credgenics. Mayank Sharma, Chief Audit Officer at IIFL Finance. Karthikeyan Ramaswamy, Chief Digital Officer at Poonawalla Finance Corp, and Nilesh Dasri, Product and Digital Debt Servicing at ICICI Bank. So I would request, before I request each one of you to share your views, obviously, I would request you to keep it, we would keep it very general and open, so you can share your views, and I'm sure, with Rishabh also in the panel, also maybe a futuristic, because, we want to understand how this can help us in future. So how using technology in collection communication, how we can contribute, how we can make things better for the collection industry. So I would request Sukhvinder ma'am to start, and then we go in the same order. And I would also like to, excuse me, because there is, because of this schedule change, I need to rush somewhere. So we will continue with the event. Each one of you can share your views, and let that be the format. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so good morning everyone. So I think I have already expressed my views during my keynote speech, but still I would just like to start with it. Communication is an important element in any relationship. If we just say that in any human relationship, that's the first thing, that how we communicate. Right, then when it comes to this borrower and lender thing, again it's just not that borrower and lender also it's fine. And but at times when it comes to this borrower and lender and defaulter, the style of communication it goes haywire around. So because the lender and the recovery agent they don't see a person behind a defaulter. They mostly see that he's a defaulter, it's bank's money or it's the institution's money which is to be got back. But COVID has taught us a lot. It is. I remember somebody अगर कोई यहाँ हिंदी समझते हैं तो there was one judge एक ऋण समाधान और NLM में he had just quoted around all of a sudden कुछ तो मजबूरियाँ रही होंगी, यूं ही कोई बेवफा नहीं होता. Yeah, so it is always with that कि कहीं ना कहीं कुछ ना कुछ तो रहा होगा. It's not that most of the people really don't want to be a defaulter. At times there are people who are frauds and others, but a genuine, most of the time the borrowers are genuine and they are undergoing certain hardships around, because of that they are unable to pay. So the communication, when we are communicating to the people around, so we have to see the person behind the show around. That is what we see at the time of lending also, but at the time of the recovery also. We have to see that, and we have to be a bit empathetic about what have been the circumstances. And during COVID, many of the people defaulted, they lost their jobs, and banks have been writing off the loans also in that cases where the breadwinner is also not there. So who's going to pay? Ultimately, how many times the recovery agent might be going around, it's not going to help. So the AI or analytics when we are using around here and to communicate with the customers around, so there's a risk profiling we have to do, and we have to we are doing that. If I'm talking about my institution, we are doing a risk profiling and we are segmenting the customers around. So if we see the younger generation doesn't want to talk to people around, they don't want to have a call around. Okay, you just send a Gen Z, you just send them a message around. Okay, not you have, but you have to remind them. So the communication goes with this around. But for older लोग हैं, हाँ कोई आएगा उसको मैं बताऊँगा, I'll tell him what my problem is if they can help around. So there's a lot of things happening around, and AI is I was just talking to so many people around here in this that. AI is coming in a big way, data analytics we are having with the help of alternate data sources, CICs. So we are able to segment the customer and communicate them when, what and how. That's what I have already talked about. When do we reach the customer? When do we want to reach to the customer around pre-delinquency stage? Is it okay? It is just a nudge around, or if it is after delinquency, I want to send an agent around and what is going to be there. So I'm just thinking that I'm repeating myself what I've just said around here, so I'll just pass it on. Yes, thank you.
In my experience, election and recovery engagement with the customer is quite important also. Because customers or a defaulter, when we say very good customers, substandard. Right? So these are the customers who, if we not keep them engaged, because he is not my only defaulter, because in a aggressive credit mindset where people are already over-leveraged with the credit. Of course, there are defaulters who are circumstantial or who are potential, but keeping them engaged is very important if we talk about the collection with them. Because as I told you, he's not only my defaulter, of course there is an industry who is chasing for the money, and of course he has a limited scope of money, and the person who contact that person on a or make financial institution will make himself as a priority will get a faster money, and other people will always be the fool. So that's how the collection and the recovery mindset plays in the industry, and the faster and effectively I communicate depending upon, as you say, on the risk recognition. I cannot communicate with all customers in the same tone. People who are intentional customer, maybe I have a different tone with the customer, and people who are not, maybe they are circumstantial customer, or maybe on a lower market, I have a little soft tonality reach to the customer. So yes, technology can help us in at least risk mitigation based on the credit history of a customer or how it's behaving with the other industry players. At least we will be little proactive to react on that, and of course legal plays a big role. And if I got to know customer behavior, how he's behaving with the industry, paying to the other player, or paying me, maybe tomorrow I'll be the person who can be in a little difficulty dealing with the customer. It becomes easy for me, kind of a predictive analysis model. I'll be able to, maybe from a bureau perspective, I want to know if guy is not paying the housing loan, or he's paying the housing loan, not paying the vehicle loan, or maybe credit for car defaulter. So at least I can take a cue from that. I can speed up my legal recovery process also. So that is all possible, of course, if I keep the customer engaged for that matter. Yeah.
Hi everyone. I think you have beautifully covered by both Rohit and Suninder ma'am on the engagement and on the customer side. But like as we call it, at least in collections, we say it's a 3C process. First connect, second communicate, and third collect. If your first two C's are in place, then third will automatically happen. Then you don't need to worry about the third C. And connect can be through any mode. It can be through a digital mode, it can be through a calling mode, it can be through legal, it can be through field, like howsoever you want to, but it's important that you are able to at least touch base with the customer and able to explain. Now second C is then communicate, right? Communication can also happen in any form and shape. It can be a person explaining, it can be a voice bot explaining, it can be multiple things. In the recent generation, we have seen that a lot of generative AI-based voice bots are trying to mimic human intelligence. They are trying to give them a feel that actually a human is speaking, and also being empathetic. Like there are a lot of voice bots now out on display, right? You can try and test it out. Even on a lot of situations where a human caller may go haywire in terms of communication, but a bot would have those controls, guardrails. Even from a compliance standpoint, it is highly scalable and also able to communicate in a much better way as the technology is evolving. So I think the role of technology in communication is very important. But having said that, we also know that the physical or human element cannot go away. It cannot go away because at the end of the day, right, robots don't have emotions, they don't have feelings. You can train them as much as you can. So that is eventually used to reduce your pipeline and funnel to a certain level that you can minimize human interaction. But ultimately, human interaction is required in cases which actually, and from a collection standpoint specifically, it is required that you are able to understand maybe a lot of situations which a normal bot would not be able to understand. But that might be only 5% of the cases or maybe 1% of the cases. So for the volume, I think as SBI, right, it's a huge volume, lots of borrowers, etc. So maybe I think 90% of the borrowers can be catered to by just intelligently automating the communication. And as ma'am rightly said, Gen Zs and others, right, don't like speaking over a phone, but they will reply to a WhatsApp, they will reply to a nudge over an email versus looking at it. And we also observe the same trends. We also observe that a lot of people under the age of 35 are not picking up phone calls, but they are looking at the message over WhatsApp, they are looking at the video sent to them over WhatsApp and are highly engaged on other channels, which is quite counterintuitive also to some cases, that they are not answering the phone calls, but they are looking at all the messages and replying to it. But that is a trend nowadays. So here, if at least on the fintech side, if you are able to source customers digitally, there is no reason you cannot collect digitally, provided it's a right set of communication and the message has been delivered to them in the right shape and form. So that's where communication becomes a key, and multiple ways to automate it, use a lot of artificial intelligence in terms of trying to understand at what time does the borrower connect, what is the right time to reach out, template for them to essentially figure out the response, which template is giving you the best response, what is the mode which is giving you a highest response rate. And specifically in India, I think we are sitting on a huge digitization wave. Like we have almost 1.1 billion mobile users. Like it is covering at least 80 to 90% of the population, and all 954 million, which is roughly 85% are internet users using WhatsApp. So the penetration has gone. At least from an internet perspective, also we have seen now Jio has dispersed internet to almost everyone. And how we can use that is something which we have to collaboratively think through. But yeah, it is a very important factor which essentially would result collections, and everyone I think is focusing on it as a banker.
First of all, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to be here and share my views with the forum. I see this in a different view. When lenders lends to a borrower, they develop a relationship. And as rightly said by Satvinder ma'am, that every relationship, communication is one of the critical factors to make or break that relationship. In most of the situations in collection, we have seen a couple of examples which have been breaking the relationship because of incorrect communication or improper communication. On the other side, in my experience, I've also seen the cases which has make the relationship better than what it was when the customer was delivered. It's a communication that you do with customer makes a big difference. Whether you really want that relationship to continue or you just want to take the overdues and let the relationship get spoiled. We have seen when we have done the right communication strategy, the customer who was a delinquent has become better, improved the CIBIL scores, and have got the loans or credit lines from the same banks. So, communication, right communication is a very important factor. When it comes to AI or GenAI in communication phase in collection, I think we have reached to a personalized communication level in the industry. What is required next is the hyper-personalized communication. We have seen customers' name getting used while we communicate. We have seen layer of communication happening in a period of 30 days time. But now it's time to get into on-the-spot communication, which is very much relevant for the customer at that point in time. It can be a big change that if we can bring in, getting the situation built in that communication while we are getting in touch with customer. It can be text communication, which is a non-voice communication, or a voice communication, like we have seen a demo yesterday from Sarvam, where the entire communication was on prompto, on the spot, based on what customer has reacted, based on his emotions, based on the customer's response and behavior. This is the time for bringing the hyper-personalization in the entire engagement that we're having with customers. Second point that I could see is platforms coming up with a lot of omni-channel communication which is possible through the platforms, but the flavor of the season is voice analytics. Using voice analytics, there are a lot of change that we can bring in the communication levels while we are engaging with customer. It can be a real-time agent assist which can help the agents to be better and do effective engagement with customers to ensure that the entire communication or the line of engagement is empathetic and keeping the behavior of the customer into consideration. This can go a long way to ensure that we fulfill our purpose of collecting the money, but ensuring that developing a good relationship with customer from a futuristic perspective. While we see this use case of speech analytics assisting the agents on the call, it can also be used for post-com factor analysis, which is also one of the need of the industry today. And this analysis can be used for conducting various customized trainings for the agents, which is very specific for that agent and not a general communication skills or a negotiation skills, which is same for all. So it's like not one size fits all. Similarly, a customized training can be conducted for an agent. I can give one example, like someone can think of an agent completing the call and immediately the call get evaluated and he get a pop-up, fantastic call, you have done a very good communication and these are the 3 good things that you have done on this call. Or the other way around, the call was not good and these 3 things could have been better. Right? So these can be a real-time evaluation, a report at the end of the day for him to say that you have attended 150 calls today, of which 50 was really great. And you can improve these 3 areas to make your tomorrow's day better. The next day can start with probably a small bite which is customized for him, that these are the 3-4 things that you need to keep in mind to make your day better today. It's like a digital nudge and digital hurdle that can happen without the even supervisor getting involved. All these points which are coming out of speech analytics can also help the team leaders, supervisors, managers to understand where the team is lacking and what are the areas they really need to get into arranging the trainings for the team to become better. All these will definitely lead to a better communication, engagements and strategy with the customers. That's my point. Over to you.
Thank you, Nilesh, and good afternoon, all of you. So I've been asked to opine on 3 subsets on communication. One being non-human intervention as of now and how is it slated to progress in the future. Now, communication where a human is not involved and how do I see that in the future. Now, if you categorize all communication that you do with a customer, you can largely kind of put that in 3 large buckets. One being queries being when you're just calling up to know something like what's my balance, can I foreclose, why did you charge this fee or whatever it is, right? That being the first part. The second part being a query plus a little follow-up. You know what, why am I being charged this late payment fee? Can you reverse it for me? Being the other side of the question. And the third one being a little more complex than the 2, which is to do with some dispute or a disagreement or a lack of service or whatever it is, right? So in my opinion, whichever channel the customer is communicating, non-human intervention is already, if not in the near future, it will erode out the first 2 segments, which is query and request. Because it's just a mere API that has to hit one of your servers and kind of answer back the customer. And in my opinion, the contribution of the first 2 buckets, which is query and request, is almost 60 to 80%, depends on the kind of complexity that you're managing currently in your business. So the future is non-human for queries and requests, and for the little more complex complaints, disputes and lack of service, we would still require an empathetic human on the other end to answer. That's question 1. The other question that I was supposed to be answering is how contact centers and progressive conversation with agentic AIs and how a contact center is going to behave or how they are going to operate, and how is progressive AI going to disrupt the conversation, not just conversing but also on the UI aspect. So my 2 cents on that is in the same light of what we discussed the first question, right? So what is going to land in the contact center where you need a human voice or a robotic voice to answer that, right? So conversational AI today, there are 2 parts to any conversation which is going to be voice-based, right? One is the knowledge base, the other one is how well is the conversation layer, considering the Indic language complexity, which is multilingual, right? Now, I'm sure people like Sarvam, 11 Labs, the platform is the same today. The tech that is available is the same today. Yes, we are making significant progress when it comes to the conversation layer, but again, when it comes to the empathetic angle of dealing with customers who are, actually, talking about a dispute or a deficiency in service, I don't think these conversation layers are yet ready to, we're still 6 to 12 months away from conversation layers being capable enough to tackle the more difficult conversations. But yes, definitely, even in voice, at this point, we are ready with 3 to 4 languages, and we're very confident in deploying it across to customers as well. For the first 2 subsets of conversations to be queries and requests, if it has to land in a voice or a call center, I think the call center would be able to tackle it with a non-human voice as well, not necessarily. And when it comes to UI, in my opinion, agentic UI, that is, if an agent is answering a customer, no more will he actually look into a system with multiple tabs and screens. You will have something called contextual UI that will come into place, as we, if not already. I think a lot of these players in this room are already developing on it. So what we'll do is it'll live transcript the calls that's happening between, I'm sure Rishabh is all ears. So live transcripting the calls, and while the calls are getting transcripted, the UI is pulling out most relevant information for that agent to be able to talk to the customer, right? So contextual UI, in my opinion, is going to be most prevalent, and it is just going to take off. I mean, think of it like a call center agent. It doesn't have to use the mouse and navigate. Things would be presented as the conversation progresses. So that's a significant change that we will see on the floors and collections and how the agent is going to be conversing. The last question that I was supposed to be giving my opinion on is the future of communication strategy, to talk around how agentic assisted GenAI models will hyper-personalize communication model. Now, I'm sure some of my colleagues have already spoken about it, and co-panelists on how hyper-personalization and conversational models are evolving. Again, I'm going back to my answer on the first segment that I was speaking to you about, which is the easier ones, which are just around an API. Yes, generative AI models are ready, and the conversational layers are ready to tackle it. But the more complex ones, which comes with disputes and lack of service, conversational models will not, and at least in the near future, I don't see the empathy angle coming in, and I don't think they'll be ready to tackle some of those complex issues. So generative AI and conversational models are here for 80% of what we currently converse with customers. So I'm pretty confident, and I advocate everyone to explore it if you haven't already. The progress that the industry has made together is significant, and it's about time that we all, AI is not something as an option, is not an option. It's right there, and when it comes to CAC and cost, there can be significant saves you can achieve by just adopting the right models. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Karthik. I think our moderator has left because of some emergency, so let me take the role of moderator here and take the conversation to the conclusion. Would request Rishabh to give a concluding statement on this discussion on how he sees this entire communication strategy to evolve with GenAI in the call center space, as he runs a large call center with a huge volume with for multiple banks and NBFCs, keeping all those flavors of banks, NBFCs and fintechs. What is, Rishabh, you see as GenAI playing a vital role, which is going to bring a big shift in call centers?
Yeah, I think beautifully summarized by Nilesh and Karthik. I think spoke a lot on actually GenAI, which is the use cases being done. So only I think the benefit we have is we get to work with multiple vendors, right? So we try to understand how different models are behaving on different cohorts and portfolios across the industry. So that's the benefit and aggregation of volumes which we get, and even from a learning standpoint, we get to learn across different type of borrowers, whether it is a tier 1 market, whether it is a personal loan segment, whether it's a business loan in tier 2, so MFI segment. So we get to understand. So the GenAI models also are different for different cohorts. So we know for that matter of fact that a particular voice assistant model, like as Karthik mentioned, right, there are agent assist also which are there. Even the quality of the agent and the assistant they require to talking to a MFI customer is much different while talking to credit card or personal loan segment. So even those GenAI models are so different that they will be giving an output, and it's a black box, right? It is a black box which is trained over LLMs, so you don't know what has gone into it. And the only, I think, risk which it carries is it can give some response which is not something which compliance will approve, right? So there are some guardrails which are defined there, but from a GenAI perspective, it has evolved a lot. I think fintechs and NBFCs have adopted it immediately. Reason being that still the compliance part is a little less stricter versus banks. So the adoption has increased manifold, and I think, like as Nilesh will also say, right, even as a bank, they have moved so much towards digital resolution. He has been hitting that, has reduced the human intervention by such a big lot, and it's all about because of these generative AI practices. Two parts, I think I'll just conclude in a minute. Two parts, one is purely on the voice channel using bots, etc., where you can replace a human and make bots essentially do the heavy lifting. Second is on the agent assist, where actually human intervention is required, but you are making humans smart enough or productive enough that they can deal with all the customer queries. So both in itself are happening through all these GenAI layers, and some of the demos also I think are out there, and there are live demonstrations. You can also go to our Credgenics booth and see their live demonstrations which we are trying to do, just to see how that happens. And the last phase of data, I think the data is the key here. To train any model, it's the key. So here we are trying to see how we can cross-leverage some of the common intelligence, and maybe a lender who has a particular type of segment, right? They don't have to start from scratch, but they get some of the models already available on the top and try running. But overall it has increased, and with the same set of humans, AI is not replacing any jobs. I think that is also one point. With the same set of humans, the call center which is running at the current volumes will continue to run as it is. Only it will be able to handle more volumes versus replacing them with bots.
So very concluded, Rishabh. I think AI is going to help us to become more efficient and not going to take away our jobs. On this mode, I would like to conclude this group discussion, and Eddie would like to thank the entire forum for this. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, if I may request with all my humility, please kindly give them all the love and appreciation and the clapping that they deserve.